We love our sponsors like Scot Global Consultants here in Pasadena. They make a show possible. And if you would like to promote your program, we will have you on the show as well. Now for the Morning Buzz, we have Sharon Kyle on with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about NATO. Thank you for being on.
NATO and Trump.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jumbo and shrimp, right?
Yeah.
What do we got going here?
Well, you know, I'm not a Trump fan.
I
Right?
couldn't really tell if, you know, with the shirt.
Clearly,
you got
I'm not a Trump fan. But so let's stick to the question of NATO. And I guess recently he said something about NATO being an obsolete organization, and even suggested that if he were president, he would explore the idea of dismantling NATO. So NATO, and in truth, I did a little research because I knew I was coming here on the show.
Sure.
Foreign policy is not my thing. However, I do publish a progressive magazine, and we do address foreign policy issues.
What's that magazine
It's the
called?
LA Progressive,
There you go.
laprogressive.com.
Gotta get that
Sharon
plug.
Kyle is the publisher, and Dick Price, who is my husband, is the editor. So in looking back at the history of NATO, which by the way is 60 years old, it was originally established, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was originally established to provide for protection against the Soviet Union. Now, since, like for the past 25 years or so, the Soviet Union really is no longer a threat.
Right.
But at the time that it was established, 60 years ago, the Soviet Union was a growing threat, and I'm sure that you guys remember when there were two major superpowers.
Sure, and we still have communism.
Oh, yeah, it's still everywhere.
Right.
Yes, we have communism, but let's get to the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union was dismantled, and 15 breakaway republics left the Soviet Union, and they became countries, sovereign countries unto themselves. The question is, why do we continue to be the global police? If you look at the United States defense spending, we spend 54% of our budget for defense. Now, that's close to $600 billion, billion with a B, $600 billion is spent defending the world, defending these countries that are our allies.
Right.
We spend more than China, Russia, Japan, the United Kingdom, France, India, and there's one other one. There was seven
sure.
Wait.
All
Listen,
together, combined.
Combined.
I know.
Combined.
Crazy.
It's
Combined.
amazing.
So is it time to start taking care of our own here in the United States?
Well, you know, I would think so. When you look at the infrastructure, our infrastructure is crumbling. It's been neglected. Look at the latest headlines about Flint, Michigan. Lead in the pipes.
Sure.
Now, Flint, of course, has made headlines partly due to the media. Rachel Maddow did a fantastic job of bringing this to the nation's attention. But Flint is not the only community that has problems.
So Sharon, are you saying that you actually agree with Trump?
I'm saying that I agree that it's time to take a look at how we
Explore.
allocate funding, especially looking at the national budget, and 54% for defense is something that really needs to be re-examined.
I have to agree there. It's not necessarily spending it on the military, but there's a lot of stuff that we're giving to these countries in foreign money to, you know, it could be in military aircraft and, you know, for their support. We're just giving that away.
Right, and also I think that we're developing dependencies. You know, why should they build up their own when we're there? I mean, we've been in Germany and Japan since World War II.
Yeah, we have a tendency, I think, to do that internally too. But
we don't do it internally across the board. There are many communities that suffer, and all communities contribute, but they don't all benefit in the same way.
I agree. I agree. Now, the whole Trump bashing NATO, and he talked about not even taking the missiles of nuking Europe.
Yeah, taking that off the table.
Right, you know, so I mean, he says, no, that's still up for discussions, you know. And I think what he's trying to say is he's been kind of out and about where he makes a statement and people take it out of context. So now he's kind of reeling that back and saying, okay, well, I don't want to say that I'll take it off the table, you know. And he might have a point there, you know? You never know where your next enemy is going to be.
And we never know who our next president is going to be. So let's say in the event that Trump could win the election, what would you say to him in support of or pulling NATO away?
What would I say to Trump?
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you that I hadn't planned to answer that question. My husband and I have seriously talked about if Trump wins leaving this country. We'd leave this country.
I've heard other people
Yes.
saying that.
Canada?
But if you were to stay and felt like you could still provide some support and knowledge of that issue for the betterment of our country.
I would encourage the president to take a look at the spending that we've allocated towards military. You know, Eisenhower, who was a Republican, who was president in the 1950s, he warned us in his final speech to the nation before he left office. He warned us about the military-industrial complex. And the military-industrial complex is this informal alliance between our politicians, defense industry subcontractors, large subcontractors like Lockheed Martin, like General Electric. These very large defense subcontractors have a powerful lobbyist network that contribute to our politicians' campaigns. There is a vicious cycle that goes on, and it is at our expense. It does not increase our security. It actually threatens our security.
And on that note,
Right.
really appreciate having you on the Morning Buzz today.
That was a great topic.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Sharon.
for having me. It's very, very nice to be here. Thank you.
So coming up next, we have the Pasadena Party Patrol.
I know. We have Alicia Brown here. She's going to show us some really fun stuff to do with children at their parties. Next.